So this panel is a really kind of a fun amalgam of people who are all different directions of video, including Jim. Jim, why don't you talk to us about video?
Jim and today. So we talked a little bit yesterday. We've been working for the last couple of years on perfecting native mobile app video streaming capabilities. So we've worked with some really big entities like Top Chef, and now we're working with Kentucky Educational Television Foundation to do live legislative, an iOS app, so people on smartphones and iPhones and iPads can watch, House and Senate legislative sessions via a native app. With it, they can sign up for different topics and things like that. So we're a native app capabilities, like I talked about yesterday, they can keep somebody engaged because you can sign up for notifications and messages, the app can come out and jump at you and say, hey, there's a legislative session, starting tomorrow or, whatever time frame you feel there's notifications. So we actually just came to the conference, like I said, that we're open research-based, see, how we can help you guys in this industry. Mobile video, mobile technology to reach more people.
And part of the thing that you were telling me, you don't really generate or create the video. You create the app that interfaces with the video. So
we create a framework that allows, whatever you're creating to be distributed through, obviously, through all the optimization. So, for instance, the Top Chef piece that we did, that's on the streaming, it's not journalism, but we started out, charging, we've been through a lot of transitions over the last few years, understanding a lot about mobile monetization. So that's a huge area of, it's a totally in flux. So we started out charging for the app, and then charging, giving away a certain amount of content, certain amount of video lessons and things like that. And then, we've moved to a freemium model now, which a lot of apps have done, where the app is free, and then for premium content within the app, you can charge, an additional fee. And now we're just getting ready to launch a completely ad-supported post. So every day is for 240 hours of video from people that are on Bravo Top Chef, and it's all going to be contextual every content. So, we just gone through the game, and that's kind of the app space just sort of evolved over the last couple of years. So
how do you know about the one in the government?
Oh, the government is going to be, since that's government, that's Kentucky Educational Television, so that's going to be for the government. So we're using the platform that we created to, we're not really going to be involved in that project per se, but we thought it was a good project to get involved with. And that's why we came here, because we're really interested in the things Steve was talking about as far as, possibly creating a network app or some sort of distributed platform that everybody might be able to contribute a certain knowledge to. We would be really interested in getting that. So I think we're going to keep the dialogue on with you and Steve and everybody here to maybe shoot for something.
How does it interact with what you might see the screen on the web? I guess I'm trying to think of just what's the tie-in between the content that you would put up on
Right.
a basic website and what you put up through the app.
Right.
The same stuff.
I think it's all strategic at how you want to approach the content. Obviously, an app, we monetize an app and do things differently. I was just, we talked the session that they gave this morning in the American Foundation. I think younger generations tend to migrate more towards apps versus, I think there's a whole group of consumers who don't really know the difference between if they're going using a mobile web browser or they're using an app. They really don't see a difference. But I think it's the types of interactivity that you can that you can add on top of an app. So yes, there's a lot of content available free on YouTube or on the other side. It's just how do you want to be able to control and monetize that subscription or some form of revenue generation around it. From the video perspective now, Dick was talking a lot about the mobile textual advertising. You're doing video research right into that. And those are the kind of things that we can talk to people about doing too. So pre-roll or you're inserting an actual video, 30 seconds. You're doing video or producing for people.
Tell us about it.
Well, I feel like unlike Charlotte Ann Marino, is really very, very understanding of all the technical aspects of how you get the video to actually appear. I've been more on the producer end of it, doing out the business development side, but developing a partnership with our local school district and particular high school to live stream high school sporting events. And started out a couple of years ago just doing audio, and then moved to video last year with one high school, and then expanded it to 4 this year. We chose to go with a third-party company to do the streaming itself, kind of like a live stream idea, but they specifically focus on sports. That's called Stretch Internet. And they do a lot of the D1, 2, 3 colleges in the U.S., and they do a really good job of it. They're expensive, but for us, not really knowing what we were doing, $90 per game. So I just build that into the sponsorship costs. If you just do audio only, it's $45 at $90 because of the They do a great job. They provide you with a brand new portal page. They give you all the support 24/7. Whenever you have a problem, if something goes offline, you call them, you fix it. You don't have to worry about it, which I just didn't want to deal with. But that said, long term, to get a profit margin, we would like probably possibly doing something different. But nonetheless, because we have a partnership with the local high school that has a very strong video program, it's worked out really well because they provide student crews who are learning. The broadcast teacher and the journalism teacher, who is also a very strong leader, has been there for a long time. They involve all the students in the production. With the teacher as kind of the adult influence. And we have sort of volunteer, I'm trying to pay them now, but it started as volunteer boosters, parents who happen to have some pretty amazing talent skill sets with broadcasting and sports knowledge and broadcast voices and American communities to be able to come in and do this work. I mean, you guys should check it out because it's really pretty amazing. I was just saying that one of these guys is actually a broadcast engineer in his real job, and he also has an Emmy award-winning graphic design company for TV. So he creates these amazing video, things that come up. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, it's not ESPN, but it looks pretty darn good for what we're doing. But that said, how do you replicate that? That's what we're looking at now. We know some other people in our area that are doing the same thing or something similar, and we've talked about partnering and maybe expanding. But as I was saying, there are the big guys in the business like Comcast and some of the others that are seeing the revenue potential and are starting to look at how they might be able to, and are starting to actually move into that space. So we're not sure if we're too late, but it's certainly an area that has not taken off like college has. So there may still be some potential.
So how much do you charge? What's your sponsorship?
This year we bumped up everything because of the video was more expensive, and the presenting sponsorship is what I always try to sell, even starting with audio only, because that would cover all of our streaming costs and maybe have a little left over for some other things. And that was the most expensive thing we offered this year, and we actually did not sell it, but I wasn't panicking because I knew we were going to bump it up. But everything else was incrementally higher, and so I sold enough of those other things that we made it up. So we were charging $5,000 for our presenting sponsorship this year. And that's for 4 high school, no, for the season, for football season. Yeah, and that includes all of the games. So all 4 of our high schools we sit at the stadium for all night on Friday night throughout football season. There's 2 games a night plus any playoffs that happen afterwards. And we're committed to covering a few alternative sports, either especially girls sports, volleyball or soccer. So we believe in the gender equity, and we also want to get out there and let the community know we're doing that with football. So we've done one of those so far, and we'll do more.
Well, on video.
On video, yeah. But, you know, when we did it last year with just one high school, we actually traveled and we went away and home. And that was, even though in theory, a really good idea, it was a nightmare. Because we dealt with the wireless issue everywhere. We totally relied on wireless. Because no high school stadiums, at least in Washington State, are internet hardwired. Our district, fortunately, we made them. They had all the technology, they just hadn't connected everything yet. We made them do it. It took us a year. But they finally connected and so we are hardwired at the stadium. That's been a huge difference. And then just getting the athletic directors to agree that we can actually go. You think they want their kids to get the exposure? You want to do what? It was just, anyway. So we just committed to doing the home games, and then when the playoffs will hassle with the athletic directors and the wireless and everything else. But the potential is huge. It's a lot of fun if you like spending your Friday nights at high school football games, even when you're in college and have children left in high school. But it's a community thing that, because there aren't too many people doing it, and to be honest, and you probably feel this way too, the energy of working with the students is so much fun. I just feed off of that. And it's opened some doors for us. I would tell you that if you are a for-profit model only, and you could get to the state championship game, and you're for-profit, they will charge you $3,000. If you come in and say, well, I'm with Mount Lake Terrace High School's broadcast program, oh, that'll be $75. Big difference.
And I will tell you that one of the young women who has helped us do the high school graduations, when we work with the media teacher and the students, and they stamp all the cameras for the high school graduations. And so she's done it with us for 3 years, and the last high school graduation was the graduation, and she handed up her camera and got up. I cried like I was a mom. That's great. That's great. She's awesome. Top 10% of the class too. So you're bringing all of these resources together, and then you're getting programming for your site, and you're selling the sponsorships for it, and doing
Yeah. I mean, really, I probably made the most money off of that of anything I've done. And I'm happy to send you our sponsorship packages so you can see the pricing. But basically, from that $5,000 level, it's the next level down is, and it all varies on how many times we mention them and how many ads they get. We also put their ads on my food websites so they get other exposure besides the broadcast. So
Yeah, we're limited, and I hate it because we have great TV programs in our high schools, but the county, anything that the TV pro people do, the school owns it and it has to go on the school site, it cannot be put on YouTube, it cannot be streamed on our site, and so, because graduations, I mean, they do it all. They do the football games, so they do the graduations.
They do.
And
they broadcast them live.
No, they don't broadcast them live, but they tape them, they film them.
Right. Well, that's a tough one. I know that. So
So
my biggest hurdle was getting permission from the school district, and I was nervous about it. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to, room with lawyers forever.
unless
and all
we
that.
try to double up, like
Yeah.
we did it and they did
Right.
it.
Which seems so
Somehow,
silly, but
but-
live is huge.
But football is so big for us.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the concept.
It's funny, in Texas, football, it's
Oh my
not
gosh, your
it's not,
stadiums are.
it's not a underserved community, so we haven't had to go there. And that's the only thing I think we haven't done. We've done midnight basketball championship, but that's like the only sport that we've done. Kids on the east side, we're trying to do a program to really check the most sports that we've had is chess. Because it really is. I mean, and you're right. And dealing with all of the coaches and stuff in the schools, and it's crazy.
It's a lot. And the one thing I forgot to mention too is that we do kick a percentage of our proceeds back to the individual high schools, sports booster clubs. So that was the agreement we, thank God, the school district did not require us to sign contracts. They just, and this may change, but they just said, no, just give a portion of your, whatever you agree with the booster club is fine, and we'll call it. So,
What
15%.
15%.
And that's after all
After your expenses, yeah.
So sometimes it's not a lot, but it does provide them with an extra motivation to publicize it and to help because they see the value in it.
So the equipment that's used to videotape is all donated.
It's
In your
all the
case.
high
It's all the high
schools.
schools.
And that's also huge. I have invested a few extra things that you didn't have.
Yeah.
So I've shelled out a few $100 here and there, but no, they have the cameras, they have the computer, they have everything.
Have they somehow incorporated that into their curriculum?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's part of the program.
So it's part of the program, and you get credit for it, and you learn, you
That's a
know.
class, it's part of their class.
And there have been some instances where they have a New Tech TriCaster similar to what we had, that thing that cost us $10,000.
Yeah.
And the Breckenridge High School in San Antonio has exactly that same one and has been told by New Tech that they're going to donate another one to them. I mean, they have special things for high schools because they really want to get that equipment into the high schools so that they can see it. And they're the medium migrant programs are using those things, but they're not necessarily using them mobile. So they're using in the classroom, and what you're doing is having to bring it out of the classroom and get it out into the field, which is a first for them. They use it for in-house, closed circuit television broadcast sometimes, you know, but getting it out.
So what's the minimum level of equipment you need to do a live?
I think.
Are you talking about a football game, Jim, or are you talking about?
Well, you probably need multiple cameras for a football game.
You, ideally, but you don't have to. You can do it like,
Well, let's
you can have one camera and a laptop and
Let's say
some.
you're covering a city council meeting.
I don't like to do it with less than 2 cameras. And that's just because it gives you a cutaway shot if something's going on, so it lets you refocus on stuff, and it just really is a higher level of stuff.
And does someone have to be there at the moment doing the cutaways? It's live, so you've got
So, yeah,
someone, you know,
cameras.
controlling, okay, camera
You
one,
have to be still.
camera two, back to camera one, just like.
Well,
So-
someone has to step the switcher.
Someone,
you know.
the cameras have to.
That's what I mean.
Have to establish it.
Yeah.
If you're recording it, you can do a two-camera shoot yourself. Just set up one with an angle and a really wide shot, and go up and do the other one.
Yeah, you can do
I've done shoots where I've had one on a tripod, just had a hand on one, and just kind of go like this for a minute. Well, I know I've got to go like that with the camera, and
You know,
try and piece that back.
But do you have to be there physically, or can you do it remotely? I mean, you have to be there.
You could
at
get
the event.
equipment that would let you be able to do it remotely, but.
We don't have the expense like that.
Yeah.
We're cheaper than that budget is.
Yeah, exactly.
Drones and they fly.
Let's start with the minimum,
So the
and then
minimum,
we can go on.
I mean, seriously, the minimum viable is turn that thing around and.
Yeah, you were saying that in your
Yeah.
presentation, just here you go, every smile.
Right, I mean, that's the minimum viable.
Okay,
Is
I
that-
missed that, so.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the minimally viable is turn that around, use the built-in
Use the
camera, use the
camera.
built-in microphone, and it goes right out.
Although, I mean,
As long as you've got good, strong
Yeah.
internet, and that's minimally, you have to have a hardwire, in my mind, you have to have a hardwire, to have at least 1.5 megabits per second up.
I've actually managed to do it with Wi-Fi connection for a candidate night kind of thing.
There are times-
Junior high school where, now, it did drop momentarily,
Mhm.
but it came back without too much of a gap.
And then I guess that's what it is,
Oh.
it's the dropping, it's the,
Yeah.
it's wanting to create a user experience that's not.
Yeah, and, you know, and that frankly, I did one camera, and yes, we switched span, but on the other hand, that's more than the local, community access cable was doing for that event.
And there have been,
You know,
there have been times when I've put 4G WiMAX, clear 4G WiMAX on the roof and we run a cable down and it's been just over one and it's effectively wireless, although it's, stronger than 3G. And it's running, and particularly, and I think it's the antenna factor, but particularly in building two steeples. It seems to work, but I think it's.
you can get it on top of the
Well, no, I'm in Belfast, I put it in Belfast. But it really, I think it is an antenna kind of factor, it kind of like gives it more something or other, and pointing it straight at the best that you can, straight at the thing. But it's a level of experience on the other end, it's gonna break up, but yes, it is way better than they ever had. So that is the minimally viable.
something's better than nothing.
What's the recommended option? How much do you need to spend for a decent camera, like the one we're using here, that
That
can
camera-
actually zoom a little bit and,
That camera, and the thing that's interesting with that camera, that's a Canon, it was $650 at B&H. It's a prosumer camera. The really superb thing about that thing is that its output is in HD. Now my $3,500 JVCs, they will archive in HD, but when they stream, it's in SD. And when we figured that out, I felt robbed. But that thing, and the other thing is the cameras should be the same. That's really important because my JVCs, and we have one Canon, and they see red a very different way. They see black a different way, and it shows up in
White
red.
balance, probably.
So, well, it's just that you can't ever get them to agree
The
on
outputs
it.
and.
So the same camera is really important, and I'd say 2 cameras, and is minimum 2 cameras. And
No, it's a-
then you get, a good Mac. I prefer Mac because we can go FireWire
Yes.
in and it's really fast action, but I suppose I know there must be some PC equivalent. And then within the Mac, you can get something called Wirecaster, which allows you to switch cameras. So and it's gonna take cables and FireWire and stuff, but within there you can get, it's $500 for one level and $1,000 for a level of it. And so that's
I've got a
the
little box, it's called Cerebro Live Shell, which, you can attach that to the camera, and you don't even need and it's assuming you're doing a long camera shot, you don't even need the computer with you, and you can control it off of your cell phone. With an app for your cell phone. Now, it too can be a little droppy, but, you know, but I've done that occasionally on PCs that were remotes, and I've been dying to try to do it with like the 4th of July parade. But of course, what I really want to do with the 4th of July parade is shoot it from a drone up in the air.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Haven't gotten around to that.
That's what got battery.
So the Wirecaster is a piece of hardware,
It's software.
software, so,
And software that makes up for, that will let you switch between cameras.
so most of the Macs only have one FireWire.
So you need connectors that let you, right now they're out for Thunderbolt, and you can get a Thunderbolt connector that lets you put 2 FireWires in.
Oh.
And
So the software allows you to switch.
right, so that's, Wirecaster does that. I think there are others, but I'm not familiar enough with them to say anything about them.
So now we're up to $700 for cameras,
And then,
plus the Wirecaster, plus a couple thousand for.
yeah, so I mean, there are probably PC solutions too that I'm not familiar with. Just because we roll with Macs because we do so much video and it's easier. But I'm positive there are PC solutions.
I think,
And they may be less money than the Macs, you know.
I think the Macs, everything I've read about this topic, they're,
Superior.
well, for
They're more
pulling a video,
robust
for pulling a video
Yeah.
without pickups.
That's what they do, you know. So I would go that direction. And then I think the next step up is to go with something like a TriCaster. There's a middle level that I'm not as familiar with, and it's Black Magic. And I've seen some stuff with Black Magic on Macs. They're using it actually with Beacon, and it actually does all the encoding and stuff in it too.
I think our local public access station just got one of those to replace an older, I think, $30,000 piece of gear, only equipment in their trucks. And now they're rolling out with this, I think it cost them $1,000.
Yeah, and I think I've seen it in Mac iMacs in big machines, so I'm not still sure exactly if you can adapt that to how much you can adapt that to laptops. It's a stationary thing, so I've looked at it and gone, okay, I need to know more about it, but that's not what I need to do right now because I moved too much.
One segment has done some, One segment who's, remember the group, has done some reviews of some of this video software, video equipment on his, he had a link to it was a inexpensive camera, a review of an inexpensive, primarily still camera, digital still camera, but would also shoot video. And if you then get into his whole business of the reviews that he does of software products, there's one in which he basically takes you through all of the stuff he has in his basement studio including the switcher and all these other kinds of things, and, and gives you a review of all of that. It's really very cool.
That's the other thing. One of my videographers worked at a theater downtown, and they used an actual analog switcher.
Mm.
And he said, I can rig that up so it'll plug into the computer, and that might be a lot easier to use than to actually rig an analog switcher into it and not have to deal with software glitches and stuff like that. So I mean, there's some really interesting, I think, arts and crafts into this too that might be pretty reliable if you're in good, solid condition. The new tech TriCaster bottom end, the low end, is $5,000, and that's just a remarkable entry level thing.
So what was the company?
It's a TriCaster
Okay.
built by New Tech, NEWTK.
And they're tied in with live stream.
Yeah, they also have that, the backpacking thing that I was showing that the Texas Tribune wants to buy is another mobile kind of thing that's a backpack and 3 or 4
And it has,
cell modems and yeah.
but that's actually kind of older technology.
I thought it was. I thought it was. It's not. I mean, it's a couple of years old. You basically pile a bunch of modems on top of each other so that you've got a really sort of bulletproof wireless signal. Which we were thinking about that a while back, but those things they were talking to someone about in my book monthly fee for those things were rental, like $1,500 a month. It was out of our price range. The old TriCaster was basically a Windows XP machine that was inside of a box, like a wrap box, and it just took all these kinds of plugins. So you could plug in component cameras, any kind of XLR audio and stuff like that. So it really was, the magic was in actually having kind of internet plug into it, not that it was a particularly sort of computer underneath it. And the new one, I think, is Windows 8, so it's still a Windows machine, but it just takes a whole lot of different things that plug into it.
I got a question real quick. So it seems like there's an awesome revenue generating tool for you. Are there any other use cases that you could see kind of a live stream model happening for local events? And does that event have to be venue specific? So let's talk about the 4th of July parade. Would a type of recap video on this parade maybe like to do as a presenting sponsor, kind of take that sponsorship, add more value by putting on kind of a recap video as opposed to just a hour and a half footage from afar?
I think that's a really interesting thought. I mean, we after the fact frequently, if we've done something bumper, it's that kind of fuzzy edges, from, when we started a little bit earlier, we went down late and had this big gap in the middle, and when we edit it and repackage it and pop it up to YouTube, or slice off the valedictorians, or do a highlights reel, and that's where I thought that you guys might also play in, because then you're saying, okay, the new and improved version of this thing's out, and you want to look at because we've got the highlights out. It's not a live stream anymore, but here's an update on the new.
Yeah, and we, a couple things on that. The way that Stretch Internet works is they not only have everything live, but they also have on demand. So we can go back for a year, they archive it for a year, they can go back and watch the games, and all of our advertisers are embedded in that. So people will then add value to the advertisers. They're coming back, people are coming back and watching it later. The other thing that I think you could add value on something like that is something I do, more civically minded and sports minded, but I started a couple of years ago in our municipal elections doing 30-minute video interviews with our city council and candidates. I did not get a sponsorship for that. Still something I want to do, but I think it's a good idea. I just haven't focused on it so far. I just want to try to build it up. But and that was just something I did with this guy I know who has a makeshift, and I mean makeshift because it's nice looking, it's just something he did himself in his own business that he allowed me to use, and he actually helped me with the camera, and I did the interviews. And those are on YouTube, and I have them on my site now, and people have really liked being able to go back and watch them later. They weren't live. We did them live 2 years ago, and there was no point because we had no viewers, and people were going to go watch it on their own time. So I think there's always room for being able to have that content available and having it out there for people to watch later. We also do Meet Your Edmonds merchant videos, which are basically people can go and see a profile of their business and they live there for a really long time. And I just think and we've also tried to be able to monetize the opportunity somebody will be able to do too. But I think there's a lot of value for that, especially if you have sponsors that you keep their name out.
Do you think it could be worth, if you're, some of the publications think about adding a new member to their staff, it could justify having a proper web, video editor that makes these shorts for your hyperlocal outlet? Could you justify the cost of hiring someone to do that, or do you think it's going to have to be an outsourced, type of thing for quite some time?
I think from my perspective, everybody I know who's in journalism school right now or communications major is learning that as one of their skill sets, and so we're all doing everything now, right? So I don't think, at least we're so small, my perception would be we can't afford that. That we would want somebody who could just come in and do that along with other things. But for a bigger organization, or maybe for some specialized things, definitely bring some people in with expertise and
Obviously, I have 1.5 people on my staff who just strictly videography and video editing and production and post-production, and I can't imagine life without them. But it's also because we do a ton of different things. We even do PSAs, like part of our rent that we sort of pay the library for giving us free space, is that we do a PSA on the Mayor's Summer Reading Program every year. And so, we go and shoot it when he does his news release, and then, by that afternoon, there's a PSA of it that saying, please join the Mayor's Summer Reading Program. And that, being able to turn that around and being able to turn that around for it's a civic thing, it's a paying rent thing, it's a goodwill thing, and stuff, and to not have to sweat that as anything longer than it is, is terrific. But there's also a lot of push toward underwriting us to create PSA things that are on the community's health or on stuff like that. So it seems to be they're more than paying for themselves in my world. But that's
and that's what you do
world,
too.
right?
You're very video focused. Whereas what I was talking about was if you've got a neighborhood site and you're doing 50,000 things, that's just one thing.
One example I've seen in my community in St. Louis that my company is already creating brand content, whether it's marketing material, photography, or video recap videos. And what sometimes the clients ask for is, hey, this is very high quality. Would you mind doing a special kind of video just for me personally as kind of a consulting little thing, and I can use this brand, brand myself better. And then when people ask, would you get this high quality video? It points back to us. So kind of creating this value, charging a premium for it, kind of brings it full circle to the very good value.
The other thing that's really important to do too is for us in our ample spare time to market ourselves. And one of the best ways to do that is through some form of video. And I sometimes think as good as we are at it, we still have the resources into what we should do, on that end. But that's
Right.
another reason to be good friends with some videographers.
That's another, Tracy, you mentioned that you're running out of ad.
Yeah, I love my science.
There have been examples, didn't really grow, but a few years ago there was a movement where newspapers were doing a lot more video. And part of what they were doing was they were having developing skills on staff and then offering, going into local retailers and offering to do a professionally produced 1 minute or 2 minute video that they can use on their own website with this, and they can use it as an ad on your site. But it's a service
Right.
that you can use in a number of different ways.
And we actually did try that. We started getting into these meet your merchant videos, and we said, okay, these are just like pilots, and then it's part of my ad salesperson's bag of tricks. This would be something she would sell for. We were going to charge $300, which we thought was really reasonable, and nobody bought it.
We tried that too, and
No, but it was just
offered to,
It's right.
kind of partnered with somebody to do video ads or, do videos. And we didn't really have any.
Patches trying to make it
I got a couple of real estate brokers to come up with. That's it.
Facebook should be introducing their video ads on a newsfeed this few months actually. So interesting to see how that.
How do we do it?
We also, you were talking about intro role things, and I think that might be creating the sponsored piece in there has got tremendous potential. With Tribune, I just saw their thing that they did an event. They didn't live stream it, they just took a shot video of the event, but they got Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas. It was a health thing. To underwrite it, and they Blue Cross Blue Shield was a panelist at the event, and then when the video went up onto YouTube, there was a little intro from Blue Cross Blue Shield Texas representative saying, hey, we're happy to underwrite this thing because we think this is important, Latino health is really important to the future of Texas, and then another panel discussion. So it's sort of a PSA me sponsored thing.
See, now, I like that, but I tell you that I'm using the Tennessean as an example, who is darn video happy. But they basically run real commercials before every video, and it just seems like they start automatically too. Like you're scrolling down, and all of a sudden you hear it, and I mean I'm just not going back.
That's what you're talking about, this ones are talking about free rolling. It's
But I love the idea of, as a sponsor, this is why we're doing it. I mean, it's easy, you can digest it, even if it's short.
And it's contextual, it's not just slapped on top of it and in your head, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
they're a proud sponsor of this event.
Yeah, it's a proud sponsor, it's
Yeah.
a commercial break. It's just
Partnering
like
with
on
this
TV.
organization
Now
or this
we'll go
event.
right for our sponsor.
When you,
I mean, I
say
get that,
PSA though, like usually, public service announcement ads, back in the print world, those were free ads, right? So you're charging for your PSAs, or you're saying
I mean,
they're PSA-ish?
PSA on the mayor's every reading program, I call it so part of our brand, I sponsor. But
you are getting paid for these
Well-
PSA type of,
With the other
Video.
stuff, yes.
okay.
Yes, that's cool. The other thing I wanted to mention about that Blue Cross Blue Shield thing, that goes back to your candidate things and my candidate things, where we really have this kind of DNA thing of must cover candidate forum and ballot proposition, water thing on the ballot proposition and stuff, is that I'm still trying to come up with a bunch of donors that are in the area of civic engagement. Just going out in advance and trying to sell, oh, by the way, I'm live streaming this Prop 6 on the ballot on water.
It's like, yeah, exactly. That's why I am selling.
That is one of my questions about the live streaming is the audience there to do it? I mean,
Well, it depends on the circumstance, okay? So if we know in
Riveting
advance
if
we're
you're
going to do something and we get a lot of push out there, Methodist Hospital asked us to come over and live stream their 50th anniversary news conference for 45 minutes. And I said, okay, we'll do that. And they had a whole lot of advance publicity because that was their 50th anniversary. And then we boatload of people online watching live, and then a whole bunch of people watching later because it turns out live stream blocked inside of Methodist Hospital.
Look, all the employees who were required to watch it couldn't do it live.
because they were blocked as a video. So when there's enough advance publicity, there's a ton of people online. But the water thing the other day, no, there weren't a whole lot of people online. The Affordable Care Act thing, there were probably 3 people online, but then there were, maybe 400 people watched it subsequently. So
Right, yeah.
It's a long tail thing too, and that from the sponsor's perspective, I think is.
I mean, we're doing more and more video.
Hmm?
We're doing more and more video.
Yeah.
And football games and, like interviews after the games and stuff like that. But, the live streaming is just kind of a new thought.
Do you think there's any value in, for example, this is an event that you're capturing the content and the speakers here, people take tickets for it, and there's a lot of value in it, and then let's say it'll be published online, later, and people can access it for free, and they can download the materials. Do you think there's any value proposition in saying, we have this content from this event here, we're going to charge a discounted price if you want to access it for after? So the organizers in this line can actually still make more money after this event. So some people that are interested in consuming the content that people pay to access it.
As a nonprofit, we have most of our interest in fulfilling our mission. I don't know that chopping off the people that
Well, not necessarily, not
need
necessarily.
it. I mean, our mission is to
Sure.
foster the growth of
Well,
local news
not
sites.
necessarily just the
If we could earn
discounts.
$500 by cutting a bunch of people off and charging a few people, that's not worth.
I guess
Yeah,
I look at
another
it,
type of
I look at
product.
it
It's not
more in terms
nonprofit.
of a sponsorship. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, one of the reasons that Rackspace Hosting gives us free space in the cloud is because we webcast and then archive every minute of San Antonio's strategic visioning plan called SA 2020. Every single minute of it. And we chopped it up into little pieces and indexed it so you can search it by people or place or topic. And as far as Rackspace is concerned, that's a community, you know, asset and treasure and needs to be sort of replicated, you know, and not go away. So that's part of why they give us, you know, $12,000 a year hosting. So I guess I look at it in a different respect, which is what's the long-term value of this to a sponsor, underwriter, supporter, donor, or something, you know, of keeping that accessible. And people, that's another place on the site where people stick for 19 minutes.
Because there's some events that happen that they bring in some prominent speakers to St. Louis, they host them on campus, and if you're a student, it's free, but if you're not in the community, the student community, you have to pay the ticket for it, and you'll have, you know, Robert Gates, you know, all these famous people.
Oh,
That even though I couldn't make it to the event, I would still be very happy to pay a ticket price to see.
I don't think universities use that as much as they should, because you get terrific speakers on campus. And I think that the students should do something like that. I see too many TriCasters at universities in Jamaica for that. And it should be used for that kind of stuff.
Another way to make money off of the sports streaming that we just started doing, and we haven't marketed it all because obviously that's something I just never seen fun to do, is making DVDs of games and selling them to parents and filling graduation presents.
Do you end up with trouble with the athletic association for doing that?
No,
Because
they
it-
may not even know we're doing it, to be honest. So ask forgiveness, not permission. That's been my mind.
Oh,
Because they've gotten, you know, in most states have really
They
particular
have.
about your ability to even do what you're doing. You're
Again,
probably
I
able to
think
do what you're
because
doing
we're
because
student,
it's
because we're
the
student,
school.
and it comes out of the high school, and all the money we raise goes back to the high school, funding these,
God's
go back to
partner
the
with
high
the
school to buy new equipment.
That's probably your,
But even
you're out.
with our high school graduations, when we put it on YouTube, the kids will have their class song, and invariably it'll be some copyrighted song. So YouTube goes boom, you know, and nails us and says you can't put this up as creative commons because it's copyrighted material, and we have to notice it. So anyway, it's really fun when you're in the middle of doing something that's like, hey, up pops the copyright police.
So that's when you start, that's when you start talking during. It's a beautiful day here for graduation.
They're algorithms.
Look at all those proud
Smarter and
graduates.
smarter and smarter. Anyway, we gotta wrap it, so
Cool.
we'll sit back
Yeah,
and schedule
thank
this,
you.
get these cameras re-hooked up so you can do this.